You're going to be a champion. Everybody's different in their own way. When I evaluate a fencer physically, I start at the fingertips and work back. Strong grip for me is important as well as everything else. But if I see a weakness in some part of the physiology, we'll either try to build that up and fix that problem, or we will adapt the fencing style to that. So everybody's going to be a little bit different. And I want to make this really interactive, okay? And can you read what's on the screen? Okay, so that's good enough. He's got good eyes. So the idea here is for me to present some of my views and for you guys to ask questions back too. And I think it's important to ask questions. Now, the first thing I'm going to start out are some things that don't seem to have anything to do with tactical epee or strategy. And basically, it's about training methodology and how you go about it and the mindset. So, the agenda is going to be the introduction. I'm going to set some assumptions for the presentation. I'm going to talk about a little about competitive training requirements. What level you want to be at, you better figure that out because there's different commitments at different levels. Then we'll go over an overview, taking a look at physical aspects, physical fitness, footwork, blade work, tactics and strategy, and how I believe they relate to being on the strip and actually getting the job done, which is get that touch. So the goal of this workshop is primarily for you guys to come out with some ideas of what you can do and what you shouldn't do on the strip in terms of thinking. How many of you have gone out there and said, Coach told me to do this, and I'm thinking so much about what Coach told me to do that I get hit? Okay. So there's a balance here. There's a balance here where you need, when you're on the strip in a competitive situation, you need to keep it simple, but when you're training, you do have to push the limits of your capability, right? Okay, so let me make some assumptions here. We're going to be talking about competitive fencing in a standard pools and then direct elimination. Okay, and there's different goals between a 5-touch bout and a 15-touch bout. And you need to be aware of that because it's really important in terms of finishes. So in a national competition, if you're in the top 32, you get national points. If you're 17th, you get way more points than if you're 32nd. Now, what's that have to do with the first round of pools? Well, it's very, very important because that's where you get your seeding from. So if you're number 1 coming out of the pools and you get knocked out in the round of 32, you actually end up 17th. Versus you're at the bottom of the list and making it up, and you get knocked out in round 32, now you're 32nd, and your number of points goes way down. So it's really, really important for your finish if you're concerned with that, and you should be. I, on the other hand, think that there's one winner and everybody's losers. You have to think like that if you want to win. There is only one winner. So we're not talking about recreational coming out here and beating up on Chris or having Hal beat up on me. We're talking about what you need to do to get to a certain point. Now, I'm going to approach this from non-recreational, fully competitive aspect, which is way different from anybody in this room right now. Okay.
In terms of ability or desire?
Discipline. 2 out of 3 is close. So for me, there's 3 things that need to be worked on. First of all, you have to have the passion and hunger to win. Because if you don't have that, that's your fuel. That's what drives you to do all this work. Fencing to be number 1 is a full-time job. It is a 4-letter word. It is work, okay? And you can't get there unless you have a passion and a desire. If your coach can't kick you in the butt all the way to first place in the Olympics. You ought to want that, and you want to take from your coach as much as possible. You want to take from the other fencers as much as possible. And by the way, most of the breakthroughs are done by fencers, not by coaches. Coaches just notice it and decide to use it. Okay, physical fitness, strength, speed, coordination. That's a big piece of it too. I mean, if you're not physically fit, tactics and strategy become very, very narrow and very limited. Okay? So as I get older and older, I get less and less capability. I have to think smarter, but I've got a lot of tools in my kit too. Now, if I was still 25 and with all I know, well, I'd probably be fencing instead of giving this lecture. So, mental discipline and training. Okay, this is a big thing. Mental discipline, before I go any farther, let me ask this question. How many of you went to school? How many of you got an A in at least one of your classes? It cut you some slack. Did any of you not take notes and got your A? I'm not talking about physical education either, which I still think is wrong. All right, so I have notebooks over there and pens and paper if you don't have it. By the way, a good slideshow is not about answering all the questions. A paper will do that. A slideshow is just going to give you the talking points and the takeaways. So for that, this will be on the website, so you'll be able to take it down. Again, if you want to get A in the class, you should take notes because I'm going to give you a lot more than you can use. Want this. If you don't want it, then this all goes away. You got to be physically fit so you can actually execute the actions that your coach presents. And I'm not going to talk about specific actions because you all have your favorite actions, or should at this point, and you also have all your own personal flaws, so we'll use that too. But you've got to be physically fit, and the last of it is that the head's got to control the bout, not the heart. Okay, passion is important, hunger is important, but it can't control you. It needs to motivate you, and that's a different thing than going up there and thrashing on yourself if you're not doing well or you're self-deprecating. That's not good. Here's the basic assumptions for the class. For every touch, for every bout, for every round, for every meet, there's only one objective, and that's to win the meet. That means number one, not number two, number three, number four. We will talk about goals and setting appropriate goals and some standardized goals. I think that if you go in as seed 12 and you end up at 11th, that's at least meeting a goal. It may not be the one you want, but at the end of the day, you should be going into a meet, giving everything you've got to win. And you're not going to have that if you don't prepare at the club. And that means getting hit more, giving hits in a lot of cases, especially when you're learning new stuff. Okay, here's my competitive pyramid. This is what I call it. So basically at the bottom of the pyramid is physical fitness. If you are not physically fit, it absolutely limits your tactics and strategy on the strip. Okay, it's going to give you strength, it's going to give you endurance, it's going to give you the ability to get in and out and sustain yourself over a full day. Now, if you really want to be a winner, how many hours is a normal meet?
2 or 3 hours. 6.
2 or 3 hours. Maybe you go home early.
6 to 8.
Yeah, 6 to 8 hours. You have to be physically fit. Now, what's the most important bout in the meet?
Your last one.
The current one. The one you just lost.
Wait a minute. I'm talking about for the entire meet, not for you, for the entire meet. It's the gold medal bout, right? Does that happen at the beginning of the day when you're fresh or at the end of the day when you're tired? Physical fitness allows you to fence your best game at the end of the day when you need it the most. Now, if you made it to the final 8, so I made it to the final 8 in the veteran world. You know, old guys going with canes. It's still tough, right? I was just so happy to be there. But how many opportunities do you have to win a world championship? How many opportunities do you have to win a local championship? Okay, it's very, very limited. Okay, if you get to 8, you better be ready to go to first. There are no prisoners if you're going to fence to win. Now, there's two ends of the spectrum here. One is I'm going to get on the strip during practice. I'm going to fence with somebody, just hit them and have a good time, chat it up. It's very social. That's fine. The other side is physical fitness most of the day, a little bit of fencing, a lot of drilling. It's just work. Footwork. This is the biggest thing for me after physical fitness is your footwork. And what that translates to is your ability to maintain and go to the distances you need. Fencing is a sport of centimeters. If you are off by a centimeter, too short or too long, you're either not going to hit or you're going to get hit because you're too close, one way or the other. All right? Footwork is number 2 after physical fitness. If you've got perfect footwork, because and I translate that to say if you have perfect distance control, you will have perfect blade work. It makes everything so much easier. How many times have you found yourself going like this? Well, this should have been this. Okay. So after that, we come up with blade work. Blade work and point control, that's really, really important too. But again, the priorities are physical fitness, footwork, and then blade work. Okay? If you got really good point control and perfect distance control, you can be world champion. All right? Because you'll be where they can't hit you, and you'll be where you can't hit them. Tactics. Tactics for me, I'm gonna define tactics as, okay, I've got a goal. This is how I want to do. I have a plan. This is how I'm going to execute against the plan, and the strategy is actually the plan. So, how many of you guys go into a bout without a plan? Yeah, you think you have a plan.
Chuck?
Yeah.
Differentiate again between the strategy and the tactics.
Okay, and there's, this is really a fuzzy one. I'm going to say that it's the plan you go into the bout with, and the tactics are how you're going to, okay, let's say I'm fencing against Xavier. I know he's posting, he's got an extra 3 inches. Part of my plan is I need to open up the distance another 3 inches against what I'm normally doing with somebody that's doing a pistol grip. And then I've got and at that point, I've got to, yeah, and this is assuming I've already watched a bout. Yeah.
Could you say that your tactics are what you plan to do touch to touch, whereas your strategy is to encompass the whole bout?
Yeah, you can say it that way. Yeah, basically, and the tactics are going to be, you know, how you're going to do it. And that might be dynamic. There might be 4 or 5 different ways to execute against a strategy, and you're going to want to do 4 or 5 different ways. I'm going to use you as an example again. If we were in competition, I wouldn't attack you. That would be my plan. I'd want to push, I want to get out of the way and have you come to me. And it may be a very boring bout, and we're going to move a lot, but I don't want to go into his longer reach, and I also know he's going to roll off my take. And that's between the two of us. That might be different for others. You might be fast enough to actually get his blade.
So that's what tactics or strategy?
Tactics. So it's like I want to keep the distance. I want to be counterattack this game rather than initiate attack. And then how you do that could be, you can do a feint, and then back out.
So there would be a strategy.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the two. Again, I can't stress enough. If you really want to be a winner, you've got to be physically fit, and physically fit within your classification. So a 50 to 59 is a different physical fitness than an open. Open, you just need to be absolutely phenomenal in shape. All right. And you can't do anything about your height. You can't do anything about your reach, not reasonably. The rack does not work. There are no magic beans to make you grow bigger or smaller. It's just about a bunch of hard work physical fitness, and hard work doing all the mechanical things correctly. My recommendation further, we'll go into, so I kind of put a line in here that this is mental above here, strategy and tactics, and this is physical. And this isn't entirely true in practice, because in practice you want to use your head to look, see, you can see you have a deficit in your physical fitness. I noticed that Doc was huffing and puffing significantly out there today. Yeah, you. And so what I was doing was I was just going back and forth and waiting until he doubled over and then hit him. So, no prisoner. If you're there to win, you use everything you've got. All right. So when you're practicing, though, your coach hopefully will give you a bunch of mechanical things that will work. And they have a lot of different elements to them. What distance are you at? Are you going against some of the fencing primarily French style or German style? Big difference between those two. And if you see leading one way or the other, you can change your strategy as well. Like if I'm going against some of this fencing French style, I'm not going to take their blade. I'm going to beat their blade. And then beat it again because it's going to come right back. So you would practice these things. You would think in the club, you would get hit in the club, but you don't want to be doing a lot of thinking on the strip. You don't want to get outside your comfort zone of what you can control and you need to keep it simple. So we'll go to physical fitness. I'm going to go through this real quick because I really prefer to turn you over to a trainer at a health club or something like that who can focus in. So can't get anywhere without it. The basic element, it's just physical fitness and conditioning and endurance is really important. And I'm going to tell you, for me as a coach, physical fitness starts at the fingertips and goes back. If you don't have a strong hand, then this isn't going to work for you. And there are ways around that. You take a look at the best fencers, a lot of them have very strong hands. You can work on that. You can get a stronger hand. You get a stronger forearm. You can get a stronger, you can build everything up in terms of muscle if you have the right thing. There's some physiologies that try to not do that, and I'm thinking of somebody in particular, not Hal. Hal puts on muscle very well. But sometimes it's a lot harder for some physiologies rather than others to actually put on that weight, and it's much more work. So you'll have some people that have a predisposition to being fit, and you'll have others that have to work at it. I've always had to work at it. All right. So flexibility, strength, speed, coordination, these are the things that you'll work on from the physical side. And the reason, again, I'm talking about these things, I can't get the tactics and strategy unless you understand the underlying concepts. What is physically fit? Well, physically fit doesn't mean you're in athletic shape. Physically fit means that you meet some standard. Like the President's Council has a standard for physical fitness, and if you're not there, you're nowhere near being an athlete. I mean, that's the bottom line. That's just the starting point. Okay, and there's a resource to go there. So you can do things other than just weight training. There's a whole bunch of things you can do. And actually cross training is really good as well. It helps with coordination. One of the things I like about the ladder and plyometrics is not just the fact that it's supposed to increase speed and strength, but it also, if you put it together, will increase your coordination because you'll be asked to pat your head and rub your tummy in different ways, and that gives you the ability to change things up. If you can't change what you're doing on the fly in the middle of a bout, change your mechanical actions just slightly with control, then again, you're limiting your tactics that you can apply to your strategy. Okay. And then physical trainers, I talked about that already. But again, it's not about the coach, it's not about the physical trainer, it's about you as the athlete. Your coach is there to support your goals. And I'm a big believer in goals. If you don't have goals, and by the way, a big part of his article is about goals. If you don't have goals, why are you taking lessons? If you don't have goals, why are you working so hard on the strip? You got to have goals. Goals also give you an endpoint to some project, which will allow you to take some downtime so you can get burned out too. Okay, so if you have a trainer and you have a coach, introduce them so they can work together to figure out what you need in terms of being physically fit and to work on all the deficits. Now, a good trainer is going to try and build you up symmetrically. Fencing is an asymmetrical sport. So that's a good thing. You don't want to get all your physical conditioning on the strip. You need to go outside the club, and you need to build up things equally across the board. I tend to do most of my stuff in the club anyway because I just hate physical training. I love to fence. But from a coach's perspective, if we're here to be number one, you need to work on everything. Because another thing is when you get asymmetrical, you get this one big leg from lunging too much, you tend to hurt yourself and you get more injuries. Okay, footwork. It's the number 2 element as far as I'm concerned. More important than blade work. Blade work is fun, you get crazy, you can look good, you can do all this. But at the end of the day, you can't do this unless you're at the right distance to do that. You can't redouble unless your footwork is right. And a lot of cases, the very subtle actions are to go onto the blade, let them take the parry, and then finish anyway. I love that. You just can't do that. How many of you go into an attack, and maybe it actually is a second attempt. Who knows what a second attempt is? Okay, who doesn't know what a second attempt is? You're not raising your hand at all, so you're just neutral. Okay, Adam, tell me what a second intent is.
Okay, second intent is
Give me an example. Let me make it easy for you.
okay. Let's say you beat and then.
Wait a minute, second intent.
Second-
You're doing the second
Okay, I'm
intent.
doing the second. So I'm giving you an example.
Yeah.
So like beat and then go.
Okay, that's not second intent.
Oh,
Okay, okay.
No, you're done. Okay,
Come
Alex.
on.
No.
A 4,
Yeah.
right? And then you're gonna just.
And you're expecting a disengage.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna close the line. Okay, that's a good example. And that's one that, that's a second intent. You just had to throw in that extra thing there. Okay, so you can't do these actions. Now, we do 1 second intent. Well, you think you're done? Well, probably not. There's a series of second intents that get chained together if you're good, because it's 2 or 3. I usually find that my opponent makes a mistake on the third action pretty consistently because they don't get that deep that often. Right? They can do ba-ba, but it's ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Can't do it. They can't sustain the action because part of it is they're in the wrong distance to do it. They can't manage their distance. And if you're falling over, it's big trouble. People take too big a step. Okay, I see a lot of on guards like this. So let me ask, okay, you wanted another chance. I'm going to have TJ do lunges because he's been practicing. On guard. Okay, wide stance. Okay, put your back foot on that line.
This line right
Yeah, wide stance. Okay, lunge. Okay, on guard. Narrow stance. And just bring the front foot back. Okay, now lunge. That was, okay. So let me another example. Was that a lunge? I didn't
No.
see. I need a good example. It's still a bad example. Get up there. Okay, now, on guard. Proper on guard.
And now plunge.
Okay.
Close your eyes.
Stop it. Get back, foot back a little further. Okay. And now, I corrected him just by an inch, and it's a big difference. Okay, go ahead.
Well, you want to move the right first or what? Wait, I don't.
Okay.
I don't know what he's
Just
doing.
everyone doing different
He's doing
things. Yeah.
something weird there.
You know, okay. I know what your next lesson is going to be. So, the point I was trying to make is that when you're out here like this,
No
Right.
lunging, Chuck.
you got, I'll take the pain, I just took 3 leads. Okay? You're out here. From here, you don't get any punch, you don't get any distance, right? So from here,
Right, right.
all right? Now this is what I didn't see. I didn't see an acceleration in your lunge. It was just fall over lunge. You should be, right? So you're gonna extend, disengage, hit. You can't do that unless you can float a little bit, right? You need to accelerate. By the way, I'm gonna say this, every action that you hit on needs to be finished with acceleration. And footwork is a way to hit people. Once you get your arm out there, then it's your footwork that's going to drive it in. You're not accelerating, you're done. So it's really, really important, by inches, to have really good footwork. Now, footwork between foil, saber, epee differs. If you have right of way on your side, and foil, Bucky Leach teaches this. Gives you a huge movement forward. Because really it's all about where the back foot is. Right? And you can hide back here. Once you get that right away, you can do that. Now, if you did this to me, this is what you'd end up getting. Right? Because you can't get back. You don't have right away to support yourself. Saber, they have flanges instead of flushes. And so it's different. If you can maintain your phrase for 2 or 3 actions, I almost guarantee that you're going to win. You're going to get that touch. But footwork is what enables it. Okay. So we talked a little bit about footwork. There's some things that you can do tactically. Push-pull. Who's familiar with push-pull? Who's not familiar with push-pull? All right. So it's basically a concept where I'm going to push or press my opponent, and then
pull.
And then I'm going to pull. I'm going to step back. So if here's my target, I pull him back in. He comes in, and then I counterattack after he's finished with his tempo.
Like a spring, right?
Yeah. So it's like you're pulling him back, right? So a good one. So you pull him into your distance. Your footwork is ready to go. So that's push-pull. And you can do that by just going back and forth like this, and then getting him into your tempo. You know.